Hello everyone. I want to thank everybody who is watching this right now. I appreciate your time in sharing it with me. Your time is appreciated. Have you ever felt powerless? Have you ever hated yourself? Frustrated and angry at the world? Is it difficult to forgive? If your answer is yes, then watch till the end. I want to share with you 3 unforgettable stories I never believed I could live after I was made to dig my own grave, which had enormously changed my life's perspective. This story might help you understand. It might be you or someone you know that needs to know how I overcome the darkest moment of my life. Please bear with me. My name is Rochelle Rosenberg. I am 34 years old. I've been a resident of Sweden for 13 years. I would like to take the moment to inspire you and discover the power of care, listen, and dare. Forgiveness is freedom, and it can change the world. I was always angry and frustrated at everyone. I used to hate myself because I felt I am unable to achieve my freedom. My parents used to call me a rebellious child, and most of my untold stories were never heard. No one cared to ask because my story is a family and community shame. So I basically ended up partying at 15 years old, involved in drugs and prostitution to soothe all my emotions. My anxiety became worse and my life became worthless. My sleepless nights were filled with crying prayers and horrible screams. All of these personal tragedies led to my unaware depression and self-destruction at a young age. When I came to Sweden, all of my memories started chasing me. I became anxious and more angrier than I had ever been. Although I have faith that God hears prayers and catches my tears, I try to seek affection from different people. So I joined church meetings to find peace of mind. My church mates marked my behavior as demonic, while I struggled within those silence. They heard my dark memories, but never dared to sympathize with my emotions. No one understood. I was always on guard to protect myself. In 2011, I was 25 years old. I started to pick up my broken pieces. I was suicidal and suffering deep depression. I returned to the Philippines and started speaking to my family about my experiences at 8, 14, and 18 years old. They were all shocked hearing this and angry at the person who did these horrible things to me. I felt at that moment that my yoke was lifted up. I was ready that some relatives would be mad and surprised. I am so glad that my family were supportive and very patient in giving their time listening to my frustrations. One relative told me that I might have wanted what happened to me. I understood that they might feel provoked because I exposed a story that normally should be kept silent. I swallowed all of these things I heard. In 2012, I was diagnosed with PTSD. It is post-traumatic stress disorder, which made me aware of all my emotions, my thinking, and behavior. I was even more relieved when the psychologist listened to all my problems. There was a powerful verse that changed me for the rest of my life. Quote, "Out of great suffering, I spoke and said rashly, all men are false." It was then I discovered that being true to yourself has a tremendous power to change the approach of other people towards you. It was the beginning of freedom from silence. I will bring you to the Philippines, where it all started. Here are the 3 unforgettable stories. In 1995, I was 8 years old. I was molested by a cousin, and I was threatened I would be hurt if I told anyone. That day, I was changed negatively. In 2000, I was 14 years old. It was an ordinary evening of summer. My cousin was under the influence of alcohol and raped me. That led me to destroy myself. On March 10, 2003, 21 days before I would turn 18, I was on my way to my grandmother in the province, so a cousin's friend would bring me to my grandmother's house. This man abducted and imprisoned me for 54 days. I was sexually abused every day. He hit my back with machete and fractured my backbones and hips. He kept reminding me that no one would want me back. I am useless, unworthy, that I am ugly, and that he is the only one that cares for me. In my attempt to escape, if I tried to jump from the 2nd floor of the house, I would die with the iron right through my belly. But if I escaped through the door, I might die with a gun in his hand. I don't want to die in a tragic way. In the last week of April, the man started to let me clean an uncompleted room beside his apartment. It was full of dirt. The rats that I used to fear became my friends. The cockroaches flew and the rotten smell filled that space. He said, "I have to dig a hole." So my thoughts were running that I was digging my own grave. And in that moment, I prayed to God, if He would consider me to live, I will give my life to the concept of courage and inspiration to others. I will not tolerate evil and consider the importance of life rather than the material achievements. On May 2, 2003, it had been 1 week of digging. Exhausted and helpless, I never expected I'd come out alive. But full of hope, God will take care of me. The man forgot to lock the iron gate. That made me escape miraculously. I am grateful to the policewoman who took care of me when I came to them, and thankful for my two beautiful cousins who provided for me after this horrible event. Remember when I said I was always frustrated, angry, and powerless? Those times I hated myself. I had overcome these issues. I also said, care, listen, and dare. When I suffered from this horrible event, I was amazed how far it had brought me to who I am today. I will share you these steps so you too will discover freedom. I cared for myself. I started to love the way I am and appreciated the small steps that I took in life. The first thing I did was to accept that it already happened. I can only change what's ahead of me. It gave me assurance of possibilities. I remember a verse that changed my whole life forever. In Psalms 116, verse 10 to 11, I trust the Lord. Out of great suffering, I spoke and said rashly, all men are false. So, if people were false to me, I was more false to myself. So I became honest and learned to consider the importance of life values rather than the material and prestige that are temporary. I learned to be grateful. Eventually, I gained strength in being patient to myself. It was the beginning of being courageous to be free. I listened to that still voice in my heart. I forgave the people that hurt me, and all of a sudden, my soul started to heal. Eventually, my views about people started to change. I became more positive. I have learned to empathize and sympathize when people share their stories. I've learned to develop my spiritual sense that seeks after good in other people despite their mistakes. I understand they also will discover their time. I took the time to listen and not rush things in life, even when I am with my family. I dared to forgive the person who harmed me and caused me deep sorrow. I forgave them not to excuse them of the crime they did to me, but to release the potential that had been sleeping in my soul for many years. I spoke out my fear to my family and friends, although I know that being true may result in losing family and friends and probably community defamation. I understand the feeling of embarrassment on their part, but wrong moves shall be exposed. I have learned to overcome my fear. I have learned that rejection is not about me. It is all about when truth prevails, it is too much to bear for many. And bravery is not heroic. It is a standpoint of truth. Forgiveness is the freedom of all the frustrations, hatred, and imprisonment we feel. It is not weakness to forgive. It is power, because you are no longer a prison of memory that hinders your future. We may not see the results now, But if you start to forgive yourself from the unwanted horrors you experienced, it will bring you courage and power to discover your potential. It will give you life and purpose to inspire others. It will open a new door, and the life ahead of you is yet to come. Forgiveness is freedom. When you let go of the harmful memories that people left in your heart, all of the scars that had never been healed will eventually come to recover day by day. God forgives, but you also must forgive others. If you start now, you will discover how powerful you will become. You have just awakened your sleeping spirit to work on the treasures of life that will inspire millions of people. As a part of my journey, I work as a nurse assistant in a dementia care. I am a painter and photographer. I use painting as a way of my continued emotional restoration. I hope that my message has awakened you. Forgiveness is freedom. Start today. Care, listen, and dare. Because the journey continues. Thank you.